Good evening and welcome to Prime Time News here on TV1, coming to you live from our News First studios here in Colombo. Here with me, Srilankanbeauty, bringing you the latest for News First, the voice of the people. Before we get into the stories in detail, let's first take a look at the headlines.
Government to make Sri Lanka an air-sea hub in the region. A statement from the President. Namal Rajapaksa says Ranil Wickremesinghe is the only leader who can face these challenges.
මේ අභියෝගයට මුහුණ දෙන්න පුළුවන් පුද්ගලයා තමයි රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මහත්මයා. මේ වෙලාවේ ජාතිය අවශ්‍යතාවය සහ දේශපාලනික වශයෙන් ආර්ථික ස්ථාවරත්වය ඇති කරන්න අපි මේ තීන්දුව ගත්තා. අපි ඒක සතුටු වෙනවා.
Freedom People's Alliance responds to GL Peiris's removal from chairmanship of the SLPP.
මේ වැරදි දේශපාලනය කරන්න ගිහිල්ලා රට වෙන කෙනෙකුට බාර දෙන්න ඕන. වැරදි විදිහට පක්ෂ කළමනාකරණය කරන්න ගිහිල්ලා පක්ෂෙත් වෙන කෙනෙකුට බාර දෙන්න වෙයිද දන්නේ නැහැ.
Attorney General says Express Pearl case will be filed in Singapore tomorrow. Environmental organizations continue to urge authorities to file action in Sri Lanka.
පැහැදිලිවම අපේ නඩුවෙන් අපි අධිකරණයෙන් ඉල්ලා තියෙනවා මේ සම්බන්ධව රජයේ නිලධාරීන් අතින් සිදු වෙච්ච සියලුම වැරදි සඳහා අපරාධ නීතිය යටතේ උන්ට දඬුවම් කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන නියෝග නිකුත් කරන්නටයි කියන්නේ.
Thousands of Brits take to the streets demanding for the environment to be protected. Proposals that would divide the CEB into 14 entities steals the spotlight. Suspect arrested in connection with the Delft massacre. Sports first, 52nd Gamata Krida at the Bandaranayake Central College.
Now in your top story, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says, or emphasized rather, that the government's intention is to make Sri Lanka an air and sea hub in the region. The President made this statement addressing the 30-year development plan of the Colombo North Port workshop on Friday.
The Port of Colombo, the world-class
30-year development plan, our guest of honor, Honourable Minister.
According to the National Development Plan of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, several development projects, including the projects to develop the East Container Terminal and the West Container Terminal, are currently underway and are expected to be completed by the year 2030.
Our intention is to make Sri Lanka an air-sea hub. Sri Lanka has to think of the future. What we will do in the next 25 years. The SLPA and the consultants have given us a report on the feasibility of the North Port. We have to remember one thing only, that what is going to take place in India, what's the development in Pakistan and what's the development going to be in Iran. Those three will decide the capacity.
This event was attended by the Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation, Nimal Siripala De Silva, Chief of Staff to the President and Senior Advisor on National Security, Sagala Ratnayaka, Secretary to the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Aviation, KDS Ruwanchandra, Chairman of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, Keith D. Bernard, past Chairman of the Ports Authority and several other invitees.
The signing of the agreement to commence construction of South Asia's largest commercial and logistics hub within the Colombo port was presided over by Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation Nimal Siripala De Silva and Chairman of China Merchants Group Miao Jianmin. This 92-meter high building with 8 floors consists of modern technology and facilities and a storage capacity of 530,000 cubic meters.
The Port Authority will receive around 15% of the profit from this hub. Other parties are bringing in foreign investment amounting to $400 billion for this. This will improve the quantity of the port and will help to attract more shipping companies to the port.
නැව් සමාගම් අපේ වරායට ගෙනීම සහ ආකර්ෂණය කර ගැනීමට මෙය ඉතාමත්ම උපකාරී වෙනවා.
The Attorney General's department says that action will be filed at a court in Singapore tomorrow, seeking compensation for the damages caused by the Express Pearl disaster.
Speaking to News First, Attorney General Sanjay Rajaratnam said that the matter has been handed over to a legal firm in Singapore. These steps were taken after Cabinet approved them. The Attorney General said that the amount of compensation claimed will be notified in the future. He added that the Marine Environment Protection Authority is to submit a report on the matter. Do you remember the extensive damage caused to the country and the Sea of Sri Lanka by the Express Pearl disaster? The Express Pearl disaster is regarded as the world's single worst incident of plastic marine pollution. The ship was carrying 81 containers of dangerous cargo and 25 tons of nitric acid when it went up in flames and sank in the Sea of Sri Lanka, causing untold damages that will affect us and the Sea of Sri Lanka for generations to come. Sri Lanka's shores were covered in plastic nurdles and carcasses of hundreds of marine creatures washed ashore. A large stock of bunker oil is still suspected to be inside the wreckage of the Express Pearl that is at the bottom of the Sea of Sri Lanka. The rapid erosion of the hull of the ill-fated Express Pearl could lead to a leakage of these stocks of bunker oil into the Sea of Sri Lanka, and the resulting pollution to the environment will be felt for decades to come. Even after such massive losses were caused to Sri Lanka's sea, why is legal action not being filed in Sri Lanka? Why are authorities just killing time? Why is action going to be filed in Singapore? According to the current estimates available, the damage caused to Sri Lanka by the Express Pearl disaster is $6.2 billion. The report on claiming compensation from the owners and insurers of the ship has been submitted to the Attorney General's Department, and against such a backdrop, Cabinet has granted approval for the civil suit to be filed in Singapore. Chairman of the Marine Environment Protection Authority, Attorney Asela B. Rakova, had previously told foreign media that the said decision was taken by the Attorney General's Department. What will happen if action is filed in a court in Singapore?
හානි හරහා අපිට අය කරගත හැකි වන්දේ මුදල අනිවාර්යෙන් බිලියන 6.4ට වඩා වැඩි. මේ දැනට අන්තර් වාර්තාවක් හැටියට තමයි මේ ඇමරිකන් ඩොලර් බිලියන 6.4 ඉදිරිපත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
The compensation that we can claim for the damages caused here is definitely more than $6.4 billion. Action must be filed in Sri Lanka. Sri Lankan courts have the jurisdiction to hear this matter. This incident did not occur in international seas. It occurred in the sea next to our coast. The law enforced in this area is the law of Sri Lanka. If you are planning on filing action in a court in Singapore, you must inform the people the reasoning behind that decision. Why did you take this decision, and how much is it going to cost the government? How much has already been paid, and who had approved those payments? These questions must be answered. If by any chance Sri Lanka loses the compensation due to the country, the institutions responsible for these decisions must accept the fact that it was their decisions that resulted in that loss.
මුදල් සහ ලංකාවට ලැබිය යුතු ප්‍රතිලාභ ඒ වගේම අපේ රටේ පරිසරයට ලැබිය යුතු ප්‍රතිලාභ අපේ අනාගත පරපුරට ලැබිය යුතු ප්‍රතිලාභ අහිමි වුණොත් එහි වගකීම ගන්නේ කවුද කියලා ජනතාවට මේ වගකීම් අංශ පැහැදිලිව කිව යුතුයි කියන එකයි අපේ අදහස.
Was the process to ascertain the damages caused by the Express Pearl disaster conducted properly? The members of the expert committee appointed to calculate the total environmental and other damages caused by the ship's fire had recently told the Sectoral Oversight Committee on the Environment that they faced several obstacles in assessing the environmental damage, as they were not allowed to go near the ship or inside the ship. The expert committee was of the stance that the estimated damages calculated by visiting the vicinity of the ship alone is over $6.2 billion. Against such a backdrop, the chairman of the Sectorial Oversight Committee, Parliamentarian Ajit Mana Peruma, directed the Marine Environmental Protection Authority and the National Aquatic Resource Research and Development Agency to immediately provide the necessary facilities for the expert committee to collect samples from the vicinity of the ship, as a failure to do so could be disadvantageous in the civil suit. Why are authorities following a lackadaisical approach in securing compensation? It was the Minister of Justice himself who revealed that bribes had been accepted to stall the investigation and process to claim damages from the Express Pearl. Attention was also drawn to a letter that highlighted many more corrupt deals connected to the Express Pearl.
එක්ස්ප්‍රස් පර්ල් සිද්ධියෙන් පසුව විවිධ ලේඛන අප
After the Express Pearl incident, we received many documents regarding the matter. Some of those letters were anonymous. We presented several letters that we received to court. There were several facts that created suspicion regarding the conduct of several officials. Therefore, we request responsible institutions in Sri Lanka, especially the President, to appoint a special presidential commission and conduct an independent investigation. Also, we requested the court to issue the relevant orders for criminal action to be filed against all state officials who were responsible for this incident.
දඩුවම් කිරීම සඳහා අවශ්‍ය කරන නියෝග නිකුත් කරන්නටයි කිය.
Is it suspicious that Sri Lankan authorities are now going to file action in Singapore?
සමහර විට අපිට එහෙම හිතන්නට පුළුවන්. මොකද
There is a possibility. The notion that this case should be filed in Singapore came to the fore recently. At the beginning of these proceedings, the authorities had not said that they are planning on filing action in Singapore. We have issues with why the authorities suddenly decide to file action in Singapore. Who were involved in making this decision and who decided to spend all of this money? Based on the allegations that are being leveled and these decisions that have been taken, the people could have suspicions regarding these processes.
තියෙන්නට පුළුවන් කියන සාධාරණ සැකයක් ජනතාව තුළ මතුවෙන්නට පුළුවන්.
Who are these individuals who are working against Sri Lanka and preventing Sri Lankans from securing proper compensation for the Express Pearl disaster? Sri Lanka is in this economic crisis today because of fraud and corruption perpetrated across the public sector, starting from the highest echelons of government. Sri Lanka is only seeking a bailout of approximately $3 billion from the IMF to address the economic crisis. If the compensation due for the damages caused by the Express Pearl disaster is secured, that alone would add up to several times the bailout offered by the IMF. The allegations that this massive compensation rightly due to Sri Lanka is at risk of being lost due to corruption and sheer incompetence cannot be disregarded. Shouldn't action be taken at least in this 11th hour to secure compensation for the damages caused by the Express Pearl to the Sea of Sri Lanka, the country as a whole, and her people?
Speaking during a media briefing today, the National Fisheries Collective said authorities failed to provide compensation to the fishing community for the damage caused due to the Express Pearl disaster.
අපි දැක්කා අධිකරණ අමාත්‍ය ගරු විජේදාස රාජපක්ෂ මහතුමා කියනවා
Minister of Justice Vijaydas Rajapaksa said that a person with a Sri Lankan name transferred 250 million rupees to a bank in London, turning this transaction into an underhand deal in the process and not continuing the case. We have 25 days only to continue this case. We heard that this case will be filed through Singapore. Why can't it be filed in Sri Lanka? We are asking this from the authorities.
අපි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ බලධාරීන්ගෙන් අහනවා.
That was the debate regarding enforcing the law to get compensation for the damages caused to the environment of Sri Lanka. Is it only the responsibility and duty of the government and authorities to protect the environment and enforce relevant laws? Don't the people have a responsibility to intervene? This is Great Britain. Thousands of protesters descended on Britain's parliament on Saturday as part of a 4-day action, Build the Big One, designed to highlight the environmental failures of the government. The group says thousands of people protested outside government departments in London to highlight the environmental and social failures across them all. Saturday's protest, which coincided with Earth Day, focused on nature and biodiversity. It started from Westminster Abbey with attendees, many of them children, wearing animal costumes and masks.
The human-elephant conflict is perhaps the best reflection of the environmental management skills in our country. You probably remember the people of Hambantota engaged in a 100-day-long protest demanding a dedicated reserve for the wild elephants to live in. The elephant management zone, finally reserved through the people's demands by the authorities, is slowly being taken over by various power players, according to the villagers. This news confirms that allegation.
Around 3 acres in the Hambantota Elephant Management Zone has been cleared by an unidentified group.
දැන් මේ මොකක්ද මෙතන මේ කරන්න මේ වදන්නේ
මේ අපි වගාවක් දාන්න එක හැදී ඒ සම්බන්ධ කරගෙන මේ එයි කි
මොනවද ගෙනල්ලා බාලා තියෙන දේවල්
ඕන මොකද සබර කොන්න මොකද සබර
පරිසරයට අහිතකර දේවල් නෙවෙයි.
Those are bad for the environment. Do you notice how bad it smells? Although you say it's compost, we can't even stand the smell of this rubber acid.
The wildlife officials of Hambantota said clearing forests in this area is prohibited.
We can see that they are using some sort of material made out of rubber to create organic fertilizer. When we allow clearing and activities like this to happen inside the elephant management zone, the innocent animals are left with no place to go. We don't know what this acid is, whether it's rubber or not. This creates a lot of damage to the environment and the people living close by.
The wildlife officials arrested the supposed landowner and took steps to take legal action against him.
Let's now cross over to a short commercial break and come back for more news. And welcome back to the news. A protest was held in Anuradhapura today demanding the immediate withdrawal of the Anti-Terrorism Act.
The protest organised by the Socialist Youth Union was held opposite the new bus stand in Anuradhapura.
If this bill is passed, we will have no choice but to say that Ranil is good. We will not be able to voice our opinion and will have to use our mouth only to eat and yawn. That is where Ranil has pushed the situation to.
We accept that a country needs anti-terror legislation. There needs to be a special legal procedure for that as well. This act also contains provisions that goes beyond terrorism and restrict the freedom of expression of the general public. The president has been vested with broad powers. These provisions must be removed.
They
are trying to find terrorism in the wrong places through this act. People who are holding placards on the road, professionals staging strikes, when students are protesting on the street, this act seems to apply. This is not an anti-terrorism act. It is an act for those who oppose the government. It should be named as the State Terrorism Act. Everyone is against this. There are ministers who are against this. There is another issue. This increases the president's powers. The Rehabilitation Act was brought to Parliament and rejected by court. They have squeezed in what they couldn't achieve through that act into this by giving the president those powers. We are against this. These powers must be curtailed. This act increases the powers.
MP Namal Rajapaksa said that they took measures to appoint Ranil Wickremesinghe to the post of president with the aim of creating a political and economic stability while facing the current challenges.
The Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Matale District Balamandala meeting was held at the residence of former Minister Janaka Bandara Tennakone in Dambulla.
Why was Ranil Wickremesinghe chosen as the president? Various people expressed different opinions. But we are happy that Anura Kumara and Sajid Premadasa did not come forward when Gotabaya Rajapaksa invited them. We believe that Ranil Wickremesinghe is the person who can face this challenge. He has 45 years of political experience and has brought stability to the country today. There are issues in our policies and we are discussing them. There is no reason to hide them. Ranil Wickremesinghe's policies of 45 years will not change and Mahinda Rajapaksa's policies of 55 years will not change either. However, we reached the decision to bring economic stability as it was the political need of the nation at this time. We are happy about it.
ඡන්ද විමසීම මං හිතන්නේ දැන් දින නියමයක් නැතුව කල් දාලා තියෙනවා.
I believe the local government election has been postponed indefinitely. We know that after similar measures were taken, the provincial council elections were cancelled altogether. But we as a party say that the local government elections must be held and the provincial councils that were cancelled should be restored. We stand for this as a party and will fight for it. The postponed local government elections, a parliamentary election or a presidential election may be held at any given time. Therefore, we request you to establish election committees in rural areas.
ඒක නිසා අපි පක්ෂයක් හැටියට ඔබතුමන්ලගෙන් ඉල්ලීමක් කරා මැතිවරණ කමිටු ග්‍රාමීයව පිහිටවන්න කියලා.
Professor Charitha Herath expressed his views regarding measures taken by the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna to appoint Ranil Wickremesinghe as president.
ඇත්තටම පොදුජන පෙරමුණේ
The public mandate of the SLPP has been offered to the leader of the UNP. The SLPP can only be managed in the manner stated in the party constitution and not according to a fake constitution. Although the constitution that has been handed over to the Election Commission mentions a General Assembly, it does not mention the composition of the General Assembly. Although an unknown group secretly raised their hands, the party cannot get rid of the real constitution and use another one. Our people have not agreed to accept the leader of the UNP as the real leader.
Questions were also raised regarding Professor G.L. Peiris being removed from the post of chairman of the SLPP.
Definitely, they had to hand over the country to someone else because they engaged in wrong politics. I don't know if they will have to hand over the party to someone else after mismanaging it. Podujana Peramuna held a meeting in Maharagama yesterday.
Ranil Wickremesinghe was appointed as president. Some stability was brought in. We will discuss political decisions beyond that. Pradesh Sabhas are now dissolved. Today the SLPP began to reform the party once again. Former chairman of the party, Minister G.L. Peiris, left the party. A new chairman was appointed. Over the next few months, we hope to carry out massive party reforms that extend up to seat organisers. Our party faced some setbacks. After Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigned, we had some massive setbacks. Thereafter, we know several ministers and MPs left our party. Supporters left the party and we faced various hardships. We were thrown into the Bera Lake. Our buses were stopped and we were stripped and assaulted. 8 were killed, including a politician. 150 houses across the country were set on fire. But we did not leave the party. We are thankful for those of you who did not leave the party. We understand the value of something when we face obstacles. Success is how we move past these obstacles. As the SLPP, we always try to work for the betterment of the people who voted for us, improve their financial status and empower them. All of us, including Mahinda Rajapaksa, Basil Rajapaksa and Namal Rajapaksa, have come together for this journey.
Opposition leader Sajid Premadasa says that the current government is excessively selling off national assets.
ජනාධිපතිවරයා ප්‍රමුඛ වත්මන් රජය පෙන්වන්න හදනවා IMF ගිවිසුම මේ රටේ සියලුම ප්‍රශ්නවලට තිබෙන එක.
The government headed by the president is of the opinion that the IMF is the solution to all issues in our country. The weak policies adopted by the president and the government has made it easy for capitalists across the world to buy off Sri Lanka's assets for dirt cheap. Our country has become an oasis for the sale of national assets. Our country is being auctioned off under this gamble with the IMF. We are against the arbitrary sale of national assets to foreign nationals and companies without a proper plan. We are strongly against this and we will stand up against this.
දේශීය ගජමිතුරන්ට විකුණා දැමීමේ ක්‍රමයක් නැතුව වැඩපිළිවෙලක් නැතුව රටේ සම්පත් විකුණා දැමීමේ මේ ක්‍රමය විතරේ ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා. ඊට විරුද්ධව අපේ.
And up next is Action TV.
The failure to build power plants to meet the rising demand for electricity in the country and the failure to identify and select the least costly modes for power generation are some of the main issues for the power crisis in Sri Lanka. A perusal of COPE committee reports reveal that it was the diesel mafia, inclusive of politicians and state sector officials, who were responsible for preventing the construction of power plants on time and preventing authorities using least cost modes for power generation. It was a one-time Minister of Power himself who made a statement in Parliament that the diesel mafia is very much active in Sri Lanka. It is evident that the influence of the diesel mafia extended far beyond the Parliament when all provisions in the law were kicked to the curb and electricity tariffs were increased arbitrarily. Several petitions challenging the electricity tariff hike are currently before the Supreme Court. Against such a backdrop, the committee appointed by the Minister of Power to reform the Ceylon Electricity Board has published their proposals. The committee had published their draft bill under the short title Sri Lanka Electricity Industry Reforms Act. According to this draft, the CEB will be divided to a minimum of 14 entities. The minister in charge is vested with the power to determine the highest number of entities that the CEB can be divided into. The committee has proposed that the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka should be relieved of their duties to regulate the industry. The committee further proposes that a new entity called the Electricity Commission should be established. If the Public Utilities Commission of Sri Lanka is to be done away with, it must be done by amending the Public Utilities Commission Act number 35 of 2002. That is a matter that falls under the purview of the Minister of Finance. Even the assumption that the committee appointed by the Minister of Power and Energy to reform the CEB is unaware of this is comical, to say the very least. The proposal to establish the Electricity Commission is aimed at making the Minister of Power an all-powerful entity in the industry. What will happen if this all-powerful entity dances to the tune of the electricity mafia? We will continue to analyze the provisions of this draft.
News first with the people.
Stay with us as we go for another short commercial break. Protests continue in Sri Lanka and overseas, demanding justice for the people who lost their lives and were injured during the 2019 Easter attacks.
A protest was staged today opposite the Anuradhapura Catholic Church, demanding that the people who carried out the 2019 Easter attacks be brought to book and punished.
We
have not seen justice being served by the government for the victims of the Easter Sunday disaster. Therefore, we hope that the people who faced this and who have to spend their whole lives suffering receive some form of justice.
දීර්ඝකාලීනව රෝගාතුරව ඒ වගේම දුෂ්‍යාබාධව ශ්‍රවණාබාධව මුළු ජීවිත කාලයම ගෙවන්න වෙලා තියෙන අයට යම් සාධාරණයක් විය යුතුයි කියන අභිප්‍රාය උඩ තමයි අපි මේ දේ කරන්නේ.
A silent protest was held today opposite the Polonnaruwa Catholic Church under the theme Awake Until Justice is Served. They called for justice for the victims of the 2019 Easter attacks.
මේ මොහොතේ දේව පියාණන්ට මේ සියල්ලම බාර කර අප.
Meanwhile, religious observances were performed at the Mahaviharya in Italy in memory of those who died and were injured in the April 21st attacks.
භාවනාව කියලා කියන්නේ තෝරා පරිපූර්ණ සාගරං ඒව මේව ඊතෝ දින්නම්.
Religious observances were also held at the International Buddhist Center in Milan, Italy in memory of those who lost their lives in the attacks.
Idamme ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතය. Idamme ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ.
Yesterday we brought you the news of a tragic murder of 5 people of the same family in the Delft island of Jaffna. And today a suspect has been arrested in connection with the murder of the 5 people in this area. The concerned suspect is a 51-year-old man.
The killings took place early yesterday morning in a house in Delft Island. The main suspect involved in the murder was arrested by the police last night in Punkudathiu, Jaffna, based on the extensive investigation carried out by the special police team assigned to investigate the murders. The preliminary investigations have revealed that the concerned suspect came to Sri Lanka in 2019 after residing in Germany for 25 years.
3
gold bangles, 2 pairs of bangles and 1 individual bangle, 8 rings, a pendant, 1 gold earring and 2 mobile phones were discovered in his possession. We also found 3 gold chains in the suspect's possession. We found a travel bag full of saris with him as well. We suspect that even this bag and its contents were robbed. Further investigations are conducted under the instructions of the DIG in charge of the Northern Province.
Tenders valued more than 200 million rupees will only be accepted through the e-procurement process in the future.
State Minister of Finance Ranjit Siambalapitiya says that from the 1st of May, tenders of more than 200 million rupees will be accepted through the e-procurement process. The minister said that this program will be implemented in all cabinet ministries from May 2023, and by 2025 the tender processes of all government and semi-government institutions will be done only through the electronic state procurement system.
Now in international news, the US military has evacuated American diplomats and their families from Khartoum of Sudan, according to President Joe Biden.
Fewer than 100 people were reportedly evacuated early on Sunday when 3 Chinook helicopters landed near the US embassy to collect them. The French Minister of Foreign Affairs announced it was also beginning to evacuate its citizens and diplomatic staff from the country. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak announced that British diplomats and their families have been evacuated from Sudan in a UK military operation. The evacuations have been complicated by ongoing clashes. The 2 warring sides, Sudan's army and a paramilitary group called the Rapid Support Forces, blamed each other after a French evacuation convoy came under fire trying to leave Sudan. A French national was injured. Fierce violence erupted last week in Khartoum between 2 opposing armies.
In more world news, Kenyan police have exhumed 21 bodies near the coastal town of Malindi, as the investigator preacher said to have told followers to starve to death.
Dead children were among those exhumed, and police said they expected to find even more bodies. The shallow graves are in Shakahola Forest, where 15 members of the Good News International Church were rescued last week. Preacher Paul Mackenzie Ntange is in custody pending a court appearance. State broadcaster KBC reported that 58 graves have so far been identified. One of the graves is believed to contain the bodies of 5 members of the same family, 3 children and their parents. Mackenzie has denied wrongdoing but has been refused bail. He insists that he shut down his church in 2019. He allegedly told followers to starve themselves in order to meet Jesus. Police arrested Mackenzie on the 15th of April after discovering the bodies of 4 people suspected of having starved themselves to death.
The 52nd phase of the Gamata Krida program was held at the Bandaranayake Central College in Veyangoda today.
The Gamata Krida program was organized by News First under the theme Apen Gamata Gamin Ratata and was supported by SLT Mobitel. The training camp began at the Bandaranayake Central College, Veyangoda, following the opening ceremony. Chairman of the National Sports Council and former Sri Lanka cricket captain Arjuna Ranatunga, Western Provincial Education Director Srilal Nonis, News First Channel Head Suranga Senanayaka, News First Director General Manager Yasarat Kamal Siri, News First News Directors Gayan Sampath, Roshan Watavala and Vasanta Masinghage and Prabhat Dahanayaka, Group Chief Marketing Officer at SLT Mobitel, attended the inauguration of the event.
We always work towards creating a better mental state for students to study well. But a healthy mind can only exist in a healthy body, and to have a healthy body, one must be physically active. Sports provide a good opportunity to do this.
සම්බන්ධ වෙලා ලැබිව කටයුතු කරනවා ඔවුන් සදා හොඳ අවස්ථාවක් මේක අපිට ඕන දුවේ පුතේ ඔබව ජාත්‍යන්තරයට මිශ්‍ර කරන්න.
We want to make you international champions. When the time comes where you have won the world, we will be there to welcome you with open arms.
මේ ක්‍රීඩා භූමියටම එන දවසක් වුණොත් එදාට අපි ඉන්න ඔබ පිළිගන්න. දැන් ඊටම විශේෂ අවස්ථාවක් ගමට ක්‍රීඩා කියන සංකල්ප.
This is a very good opportunity. The Gamata Krida concept was there for some time, but we as SLT Mobitel wanted to bring this back with a new phase after some time. We are implementing this program to achieve three main objectives.
The training camp focuses on 10 sports including athletics, volleyball, netball, boxing, football, basketball, badminton and shooting. Experts in the sport, including coaches and players, were tasked with guiding these students to identify their talents and reach their true potential. Over 400 sportsmen and women from 16 schools attended the Gamata Krida program. These sportsmen and women also got the opportunity to train with the chief coach of the Bangladesh female cricket team and several members of the team as well.
Today we're here at the Bandaranaike Central College in Veyangoda with Gamata Krida. Now the sports first team launched Gamata Krida 10 years ago with the aim of guiding, nurturing the young individuals who are spotted at grassroots levels and taking them to the international and national levels. Today we had many veterans in all sorts of sports, veterans of the sporting industry coming here to share their experiences and train these students who joined us in this program today. We had the participation of more than 500 students from across 17 schools joining us for the Gamata Krida program today. Now, as you know, Sirasa TV is the people's channel and News First has always been with the people, and that is why the Sports First team came today to be with the people and make the dreams of these young, talented athletes to make their dreams come true. For the News First team, I'm Naveksha Gunasekara reporting to you from Veyangoda.
And that's a wrap of Primetime News here on TV1. As always, thank you for watching. Stay safe, take care, and have a good night.